And we're back. Our second game of our first best of three of the day. The winner's bracket final on the way. LGD taking on Vici Gaming. And LGD, I mean, they held tight. I mean, Vici showed us some signs of life coming down the stretch in game one. But for the most part, LGD did seem to have a lead and seemed to do a good job of taking Vici out of their standard game plan, which is to really achieve dominance in the early and mid game. And really, even though Vici did have one big turnaround, had a chance to get things together, a little bit of over-aggression cost them. And now LGD is just one game away from advancing to the grand finals. So, Ben, looking ahead to this second game, we talked about it a bit at the conclusion of game one. Where do you think Vici needs to go with this? I mean, is this the sort of thing where they go ahead and decide to try and knock LGD out of their game style? What, if any, adaptations do you want to make?
I'd say Vici's like fairly predictable. I haven't really seen them run like any like cutting edge new strategies, so I fully expect them to do kind of the same sort of thing. Draft for relatively strong lanes as well as good 5-man, and 5-man whether you're ahead, whether you're behind, they'll probably do the same thing and try and take control of the map that way, make use of early smoke. So I think they just need to improve on their execution. I don't think their strategy, I don't think their picks are poor at all.
Right. Well, moving on into the draft, LGD banning out the Alchemist, sticking with what we anticipated, that we really wouldn't see Alchemist make it into play very much. Vici going to go ahead and take out the Enchantress. And, you know, 5-man team fight is what defines LGD Gaming, largely in what they've been able to accomplish throughout the entire season. Vici's actually going to take out the Doom. And we saw a first pick Doom in our last game. And that was interesting in and of itself. And we actually saw Sylar on the first pick Lone Druid as well. So both teams, I mean, willing to adapt to each other. I mean, Doom, we've seen the hero used a very nice effect by a number of teams here in the D2L so far. And Vici not going to allow LG to get their hands on it.
Yep, Venomancer seems like he's going to be banned out a lot too. Visage still in the pool. No Wisp not banned out by Vici either, so we may see LGD just run very similar strategy to last game, although they will have to suffer without the Doom pick. The Doom first pick, it's very unusual, but LGD seems to always make it work out for them.
And, you know, as we talked about before, whenever you snag a Doom early on, Visage will actually be the first pick for Vici. Whenever you see the Doom pick come out very early, it does have a secondary effect outside of the heroes that, outside of how effective the hero himself happens to be. There are a lot of heroes that it's very tough to pick into a Doom, and we saw just how devastating a Doom can be to a Bristleback, for example. ROTK had a very rough game in game one, and Kunkka, of course, played by Super. Super ended up 1-6, 1-7, something like that by the time all was said and done. And that's a big reason why, even though Vici did have some success here and there, they moved fairly well. They just didn't get the performances they needed out of those two heroes. And whenever you have a composition like that, you have to get some mileage out of heroes like that. Otherwise, you're just kind of wasting their potential in the mid game.
So LGD going with two, or just very similar heroes to what they had last game. They third pick Crystal Maiden last game, first pick Doom, second pick Dragon Knight, so something very similar. Just going right down the line. Doom's not in the pool, they'll just go right with these two. Vici, I think they probably should ban out Wisp in the second phase. Nothing really too telltale of either team yet. Nothing unusual.
10 seconds
and speaking of Dragon Knight, we've seen that hero have an exceptional amount of success, especially here live on land. Just so much you can do with him. He's a hero that really does fall into the classification as an anchor hero. He helps to manage fights a lot. He certainly fits in well to any kind of a early push, early team fight kind of composition. Very flexible in how you want to build him as well. You can go a straight up BKB, or you can go something like a Shadow Blade. So LGD keeping their options open, has a lot of roam potential, and Dragon Knight and Crystal Maiden in particular love that combination just because of how much Arcane Aura from Crystal Maiden allows him a little bit of breathing room in mid lane, being able to use Breathe Fire a bit more often, a bit more freely to last hit and to get some harass, and certainly you know, opens things up from her roam potential alone. Frostbite plus Dragon Tail, a very potent combination in trying to bring down a single target.
Vici used almost all of their reserve time right there, trying to figure out a ROTK pick. Looks like they will go with the Clockwork. I mean, he plays Timber, Clockwork, Bristleback. He also plays Nature's Prophet too, so I guess they were just worried about which one they exactly wanted to pick for him. Clockwork, a little bit better of a team fighter than Bristleback, very good at initiation. And as we saw last game, Vici just had a very, very difficult time initiating on LGD, having to rely on maybe like a root or an X torrent that wasn't BKB'd. It was just so difficult for them to just make the fight 4-on-5 in their favor instead of LGD always knocking one out with Dragon Tail or Doom. So I think that Clockwork will do very well in that aspect, especially a well-placed Cog can just completely disrupt the team fight.
Second ban phase underway. LGD not going to allow Super the option of the Storm Spirit. We saw him banned last game as well. Vici not going to allow Dragon Knight to hook up with Chen, and going to go ahead and take out the IO. We saw how effective LGD was with IO early on. In fact, I mentioned this before, feel fairly confident that they ran IO as much or more than any other team, East or West, in D2L group stage play. Maybe Fnatic gives them a run for their money in that that instance. But so far, the option's very much open on both sides. And you know, one thing I do hope Vici shows us is continuing to put pressure on. They actually had a fair amount of success in the early laning phase in Game 1, and that's just what they do best. Keep pressure on, don't allow the opponent to farm very well. LGD, though, throwing a bit of a curveball, grabbing the Outworld Devourer, so you have two heroes that generally want mid lane, both on the same team now.
Yep, and not really sure what they're going to go with. I mean, they could technically push with the Pugna too. Pugna OD is a lot of sustainability. Dragon Knight nice with the push too. So Vici doesn't have that much anti-push right now. And if they don't draft for it, they may be in for a lot of trouble when it comes to defending their tier 1 or tier 2 towers.
Lone Druid going to be picked up for the second game in a row this time. Going to Vici as well. Sylar ran a very effective Lone Druid in Game 1. They just weren't really able to get everything together coming down the stretch. Had a very quick Radiance up, but with the Clockwork and a Visage, I mean, this is a bit of a jack-of-all-trades lineup once again. You know, they could end up deciding to do something like they did last time, which was run an offensive tri-lane, solo safe lane farm the Druid, but I mean, it depends on where they want to end up running the clock. I mean, ROTK usually the one who runs that clock, and seeing Clockwork go into lanes where he plus two other heroes are in an aggressive position. It's not super rare, but it is something that you don't see Vici in particular do that often.
And a Darkseer pickup, fairly unusual, especially after he keeps getting nerfed patch after patch, but still fits well into LGD's playstyle. Natural mech carrier, so OD doesn't have to get one. Vacuum and Surge, very, very useful for team fights. Looks like Vici will pick up the Pugna for Super too. So now Vici is the one with a fairly push-heavy lineup, and they can start the far 5-man ball very, very early.
Yep. I like the sustain that LGD is going to have across the laning phase and on into the later phases of the game, too, between Outworld Devourers, Aura, and combine that with Crystal Maiden's Arcane Aura, and Darkseer. And Darkseer's ability to get up a very quick mechanism. They're going to be able to get out, hook up as a group, and keep things together in terms of push, in terms of continued sustained fighting and aggression very effectively. But as you mentioned with Vici, between the Druid, the Visage, and the Pugna in particular, Pugna with Nether Blast, Lone Druid, with the Bear and Demolish, and Visage, of course, once he hits level 6, having the Birds to help add to that push potential. And I really like the way Clockwork jives with that trio as well. The fact that he gives them that reach that you really want to have, make it very difficult for the enemy to confidently stand under their own tower without being initiated upon. This is going to be tough for LGD to deal with, but they do certainly have the tools, and some defensive tools at that.
Darkseer, fairly man intensive too, so he's going to get kind of blown up by Pugna Nether Ward. And wow, Naga Siren Ban, slightly unusual. They don't really have that much wombo combo. I guess you could technically like Sagma Siren into Wall Vacuum and OD Sandy's Eclipse, but that's about it. Maybe a Freezing Field on top of that. But it is also particularly useful for killing the Nether Ward. If he drops a Nether Ward, you sleep, you kill the Nether Ward, and then you can start off a team fight right there. And Pugna is not very useful when he can't position himself correctly, especially without that Nether Ward drop down.
Waiting on LGD to show us their 5th pickup and how they're going to round out the composition. Still really curious as to how they want to end up laning this out. Again, OD and Dragon Knight usually heroes that demand a mid lane. They need the levels, usually can get some decent farm. For Vici, it's kind of the same situation. I mean, you look, you have potentially 3 heroes who can run mid. Usually they don't run ROTK. One would imagine they'll want super on just a super-centric hero, while LGD will go ahead and grab some more team fight. What I really like about the Elder Titan pickup there, though, is the anti-push that he's going to give to them dealing with Vici Gaming. Ancestral Spirit, aside from buffing Titan whenever he comes back and doing a fair amount of harass damage, a fair amount of reasonable scouting, and so on and so forth, I really, really like the fact that he simply can melt down creep waves very, very quickly, and that'll make things at least a little bit more difficult for Vici to get their legs behind them and really start trying to march down and push down towers at the speed at which this composition generally can.
Not really sure what LGD's lanes are going to be, though. Dragon Knight, OD, Darkseer, and Elder Titan can all solo a lane. And last pick from Vici, another support in the form of Vengeful Spirit, so looks like looking to gear up for some aggression in the early game.
It's going to be Rabbit on the Outworld Devourer, so most likely he'll be farming out of one of the side lanes while Zhao 8 will be handling the Dragon Knight. Imagine he'll be heading to mid, and interested to see just how else they're going to want to set this up. I mean, one would think it'll simply be kind of an old school approach. They could end up running a 2-1-2 though, and being fairly effective of that, even if they just start the Crystal Maiden in the jungle until level 2. On the side of Vici, Super will be taking Pug to mid, so Pug to mid, very effective with this kind of a lineup whenever you want to push very early, get as many points into Nether Blast as possible, and you can just start shoving down towers. Siler for the second game in a row will be on the Lone Druid, and I'm curious if they're going to go with just a Rush Radiance build or if they're in fact going to try to do something a little bit more time sensitive instead of taking the first 20 just to secure him farm.
And introducing the lineups.
As the teams move out, we'll take a look at who's handling who. LGD will have Zhao 8 running on the Dragon Knight, as mentioned. DDC playing on the Crystal Maiden. Yao will be on our Elder Titan as DD plays our Grape Crusader, Mr. Darkseer, and the Old Dirty going to be handled by Rabbit. On the other side of the river, ROTK playing on the Clockwork as anticipated. Super, the mid specialist for Vici, will be playing on the Pugna. Visage handled by Fenrir. And the Vengeful Spirit, played by FY, as Siler handles the Lone Druid for the second game in a row.
Looks like Vici being very aggressive. They will see OD, and OD will see them too. So looks like there are going to be a lot of early warding going on because LGD is very likely to pay super greedily in this early game with Tri-Solo and then Darkseer and CM both making use of the jungle. So very important for them to try and stymie their farms. There will be an early sentry ward out, and LGD does not really have an effective way to kill that. I guess technically they can use like an Astral Spirit to see that observer ward, or see that sentry ward and deward it, but it's still going to be extremely difficult for them to do so. Checking everyone's inventory, I don't even think any of them have sentry wards.
Horn blows, and game 2 underway as LGD matches wits once again with Vici Gaming. Vici trailing the series 0-1. If they end up losing, they'll fall down to the lower bracket to meet the Cinderellas of the tournament and Fnatic, who playing with 2 stand-ins. And LGD just 1 win away from advancing to our grand finals and a chance at the lion's share of a $50,000 grand prize pool here at the HyperX D2L. So the lanes take shape. Siler's actually going to end up going mid against Zhao 8. Now, this is an interesting matchup. I mean, Dragon Knight should be able to do okay, but both are going to make very appetizing targets for early mid games.
Yao trying to get some sort of experience on bottom. He is just out of creep range too. FY trying to zone him out there a little bit too. But the range creep is getting attacked, so the wave should push out into him. Looks like ROTK on top.
Down to about half health. Taking a lot of harass, but able to make it back to safety fairly easily. Will go ahead and salve himself up. He has yet to absorb a single experience point. Should get some here, as, yeah, should be quite safe in doing so. But again, back to this mid matchup. I mean, the roam potential is going to be there on both sides. You've got DD, and, you know, Darkseer is certainly not all that effective a roamer, but DDC works well in that situation. But Visage plus the Vengeful Spirit, this is going to be a very potent combination to apply some pressure to Zhao 8 as the early game continues to play itself out.
Yao expended all of his mana already, trying to leech some experience from the dying Alpha Wolves. And now he's level 2, so he's not doing too terribly. ROTK, meanwhile, on the offlane, almost level 3, so looks like Vici is getting slightly more out of this early game, although LGD is using this jungle. We see a double creep camp right here. A little bit of luck for him, no mud golems.
And very quiet early laning phase, as one would rather expect. Yao did manage to make it to level 2. And Super continuing to just farm away on the Pugna. He's sitting near the top of the CS board. He's got 8. The 2 leaders so far, both of our mids, in Zhao 8 and Siler. DD, as you said, very fortuitous. And not having Magic Immune Mud Golem spawn, so this should be a very nice gain of gold and experience for him. And really want to see just how quickly they're going to prioritize the mechanism on him. I really think with this composition, the way it is, and how quickly they can begin to apply pressure to Vici, especially when you know Sylar most likely is going to be trying to replicate what we saw in Game 1, which is a very quick sort of an item rush.
Wow,
to
this didn't actually block the spawn either. Surprising.
Huh. That is odd. Fairly sure that should have worked, but nonetheless, an extra spawn now for DD to go to work on. And always nice. I mean, kind of a pain to have the Satyr Tormentor, but still having your hard camp available going to aid quite a bit. 3 minutes in, and all's kind of quiet now. Taking a look at the way these teams stack up. And
Yao on bottom.
Yeah. Yao should be, oh wow, eating a lot of damage after the Decrepify, but still able to make it back to safety. So as much damage output as they have, it's a shame Fenrir wasn't there. If he had been, that would have been an easy kill, as he went from 100 to about 70, about 20% very, very quickly.
Mid lane, Xiao 8, suffering a little bit in the wayside of CS Sylar 20-5 compared to Xiao 8's 15-1. ROTK getting a fair amount of creeps on top too, 9-2, not far behind Rabbit on the OD. And curious to see what build OD is going to go for. He hasn't actually picked up an early boost. It could be a very early Midas.
As you said, having DD on the Darkseer allows him the freedom to skip out on what is a fairly standard mechanism build and get something like an early Midas, which I think would be a really interesting pickup for him, especially given the way these two teams are stacking up so far, the fact that both have pretty adequate amounts of push and counter push. So each one, so long as they're on top of their movement and on top of their vision, should be able to react very quickly to whatever the enemy's going to do. That'll allow them to buy time for heroes like that. Heroes like him and the Dragon Knight to fill out their inventories under attack before joining the clash. But based on the first 5 minutes here, Merlini, who would you give the early game advantage to? I mean, obviously you've got Sylar and Super on top of the overall CS board, but it has been very quiet.
There's smoke from DDC and DD.
Finally. Maybe a little bit of action.
There's phase boots on Sylar though. They're gonna have to like surge Xiao 8 into a melee range Dragon Tail and then Ion Shell him at the same time. That's going to be pretty difficult, especially when FY and Fenrir are behind him too. Yep. So I'm not really sure who's going to get the jump first. I think whichever team initiates first, though, is going to come out behind because the other team will just be able to counter-initiate, and they'll have the element of surprise, a better element of surprise.
Here we go. Sylar right up near the edge. No wards in range, so no vision. Up now the bear's up there.
They're coming from behind.
Oh, they're going to surge DDC, and Sylar going to be spotted out. And here comes the help. DDC going to be caught with a magic missile, and Soul Assumption and auto attack enough to add first blood. Sylar will end up. Oh, is he going to make it away? DD's right on his tail, summoning the bear, surging after him. It's a 2-for-1 trade as they manage to get the DK as well. But ROTK not about to abandon things. He's going to have surge up. Yep, has it up now. And ROTK finally using the battery assault, but not going to be enough, I don't think. And he's actually going to run right under the tower and to the loving embrace of Rabbit, who uses Astral Imprison to secure his escape. So all told, Vici takes the lead 2-1.
Yep, not that poor of an engagement for LGD. They did lose 2-for-1, and they also gave up first blood, but they did get Sylar, which is more important than killing a support in LGD, but definitely going in the way of Vici there. Yao actually getting some experience finally on bottom lane. He is level 4 at the moment. ROTK almost level 6 too, so that early laning phase not going so well for LGD.
And things kind of beginning to stabilize a bit. FY will spot a haste rune though, and he's going to grab it and take off with it.
Yao's going to die here.
Yep, Yao in some trouble. Eats the magic missile, following the Grave Chill, and one Soul Assumption. Enough to bring his life to an end. 3-1. Vici off to a great start.
Yeah, this lineup from LGD is just so greedy, though. At the same time, they're supposed to be behind in the early game because they have 2 junglers and Crystal Maiden and the Darkseer. So, I don't know. They're getting a little bit too far behind them, especially when this tower is going to fall on bottom. And the T2 is going to start being pressured, too, because Yao can't really do that much to hinder their push.
And the tower does end up dropping. That'll be Super taking it to no one's surprise. And taking a look at Siler, he's got 1,500 gold banked away. And already went for his phase boots, though. So trying to give himself a little bit of extra survivability. Meanwhile, Zhao 8 has his bottle, set of brown boots, and 500 gold. Fenrir and FY making their way up towards the tier 2. They will drop a ward and keep an eye on things while Super just continues to farm. And they might end up, as you said, pressuring that tier 2. LGD has other things in mind, though, as they smoke 3. That's going to be Yao, DDC, and DD leading the way and trying to find a target. Siler, again, quite appetizing, but ROTK might be, nope, never mind. We'll go ahead and head elsewhere. Still, they're right on his heels.
Yep, and they're in the same position as last time, where they going for a kill.
Surged right into the cogs. In the meantime, Siler ate the Dragon Tail. Breathe Fire was there as well. Yao in trouble and will end up being caught up in the Magic Missile. Zhao trying to trade blows for him. DDC and DD doing what damage they can. Vacuum on ROTK, and he's in some trouble. DD ends up being traded. Zhao 8, one more Magic Missile as he dies as well. And Vici trailing this series by 1 game. Off to a great start as they're now at a 6-2 advantage in terms of kills. We're approaching 10 minutes. And we'll take a look at the overall gold. We can see they've already amassed themselves roughly a 4,000 gold lead, making 1,500 experience as well.
They're just at the right place at the right time, though. Both times LGD has tried to smoke gank mid. A couple of heroes on the side of Vici have been there, so just impeccable timing from them. I see Rabbit still free farming away on top with the early Midas build, so at least things aren't going that poorly for LGD, and they will have the mid game somewhat secured if he's able to farm up a ton of items. But it's still going to be a long way until he's up and online. Meanwhile, Super is about to get this T2 on bottom.
Super continuing to keep the pressure up in bottom lane, had it pushed up right underneath. He will be the mech bearer on the side of Vici, as he's already picked up the buckler and the headdress as well. In fact, he's going to have the mechanism done right about now. And that's actually going to be coming out quicker than DD manages to get it out. So that in and of itself, pretty fascinating.
They ping out the 2 supports from Vici, and Yao has to be, or Zhao has to be extremely careful so he doesn't get hookshot out in mid.
And Fenrir making his way all the way up. Fact that Vici will be the ones to have their mech out first means.
Here they go. Yep. Looking for the hookshot.
Zhao makes it back under the tier 1. No hook coming out as ROTK had made his way over. Might come now, and it will. There's a swap, so a little bit of miscommunication nonetheless. Not going to be a problem as Zhao ends up dead, standing at the lip of the river. And the fact that they already have their mechanism up means every time they take a pick like that, once Super runs back to base and picks up the recipe, they're going to be able to just continue running over top of these towers and taking these team fights anytime they want until DD has his own up.
Yep, and they're trying to get the T1 on top, but a rocket comes out from ROTK and will delay their push even further. So LGD has not really accomplished anything in the early game except for getting decent levels up on Darkseer and getting a lot of farm up on OD. Everything else has gone very poorly for them. Their smoke ganks have not worked out for them. Elder Titan got zoned out pretty hard on bottom. He's 3 levels behind Vici's offlaner, and Zhao has died 3 times in mid already. So they're in a somewhat similar position to last game, although I think their start is actually much, much worse than last game. And now the 5-man from Vici begins with, is there a mech out from Super? Yeah, there is a mech out already. And level 3 Nether Ward too. He's level 9, so I don't think there's any way that LGD can contest this. They have to just split push on their own.
And Nether Ward goes down. The tier 1 top
tower is under attack.
The target. In the meantime, they're going to try to trade tier 1 for tier 1. Zhao and Yao go to work on the tier 1 mid. Tier 1 top, no glyph available, so should be taken down relatively quickly. Same true of the tier 1 and mid. That's not going to be too bad a trade for LGD. It sucks to lose here. They might get the bear. If they manage to get the bear, that would be a huge win, but I'm not going to overcommit to it. But trading away your safe lane tier 1 for the mid tier 1 of the enemy, that's not too shabby.
Yeah, it's not bad when you're in LGD shoes. Just looking to try and shorten that gold lead. It's about, what, 5,000 in favor of Vici right now. No surprise there. And they have pretty good map control too. ROTK with the threat of the hook shot is just making everyone feel scared around the map. OD looks like he is going for a 4-step. He will have it up very, very shortly, about 200 gold. But in the meanwhile, Siler has joined up with the rest of his team. 3,600 gold. So he's going to have his relic after this tower.
Vici looking to even the score here in mid lane. Tier 1 dropping very quickly. They're going to be able to keep pushing pretty much at will. And yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. Continuing to move up mid lane. Super a little low on mana, but as his arc boots go about 25 seconds, DDC trying to ward him off a little bit. Here's that anti-push coming out from Ancestral Spirit. Unfortunately, not maxed out quite yet, and only so effective at trying to counter push. Fenrir is level 7. Has a resummon on the birds if he needs them. And we're going to see Rabbit. Nice Earth Splitter, caught a couple. They're trying to chase him down. Force Staff manages to get Old Dirty to safety. As Rabbit forced to pull back so far, LGD managing to hold their tower for the moment. Nice swap on the Zhao 8 though. Zhao 8 now cogged in and cleaned up. And Vici able to mech through what little damage was done. And this continues to be a very, very difficult game for Dragon Knight in particular, who sits near the bottom of the board at 1 and 4. He's died so many times. 4 of the top 5, now 3 of the top 5 in terms of pure fall.
FY wrapping around from behind too.
Dire's middle tower.
Let's see, managing to get the magic missile out. Yao caught out, but Rabbit's there. Ashel in prison, DDC in position. And they will get the frostbite off, so this will be a nice return kill. TP's coming in. The stomp from the Ancestral Spirit secures that. And all told, LGD giving up a bit, but still at least holding some map control together. They lost about half the HP on that tier 2, but finally forcing Vici back onto their side of the map.
Yep. FY just, I mean, they don't need to initiate on LGD. They can just wait for LGD to come to them because they have the Tower Siege. They have the Lone Druid Bear as well as the Pugna Nether Blast, and that is just so much damage to deal with. LGD can't wait it out and just let their towers fall one by one like they have been doing. So they need some sort of better initiation too. They have the wall up on Darkseer, but he didn't have enough mana in that fight. They need a little bit more mana up on him. He has a mech at this point though, but still not enough, especially when the Radiance is coming out on Siler in 500 gold. And Vici, once they take that T2 down in mid, they can easily stop by Roshan. Visage has his medallion picked up too, and a lot of strength to his name too. He has Arcane Boots, Bracer, and a casual belt of giant strength.
DDC caught out in mid as ROTK hit the hook and got the cogs down. They're ready to push. Super now with a full mana pool as well as Arc Boots ready to go. Mechanism just about ready to go as well. At top, Zhao 8 stunned out, swapped out, and cleaned up. Earth Splitter's there to do some damage and slow down. No, he might have a chance to get away. Decrepify plus Life Drain, not enough. Dragon Tail and ROTK might allow them to reinitiate. Super using Nether Blast to help clear things out a bit, but the push continues. And this is where that sustainability we talked about comes into become such a major factor. FY continuing to hang out up on the ridge line there, looking for a target, anyone that comes out too far. Swap back up in 15 seconds. Just level 1 swap though. Level 1 swap, he's used it about as well as you can. It's really level 2 where you start to get maximum use out of that ability.
Yep, still trying to siege the tower, but it is coming very slowly. Siler has his Radiance coming right now too, so I mean they could very well just take a 5-on-5 right now and even get damage on a T3 or take Roshan. So it's really on LGD to make a move now and make a set up for a really good team fight.
Tier 2 tower still standing. Probably not for long. And here comes Zhao 8. Dragon Tail, but he's going to be stunned right off of it. There's a swap out. DD locked inside the cogs, cleaned up from downtown from Visage. Zhao 8 comes back out from the Ashland prison. The ultimate from OD, not effective at all, as they just run right over the tower. And the Radiance burn on Siler, or on Rabbit, doing an excellent job forcing them back. And now only one outer tier tower remains for LGD as Vici is completely running away with this mid game.
Yep, Rabbit still has not died yet, 2-0-0. He is forced to get a BKB just because Pugna Ward does so much damage to him. Every time he casts his orb, he's taking about as much damage as he's dishing. And it also does a fair amount of damage when he casts Astral and Insanity's Eclipse too. He doesn't actually have any treads yet. Intrez would go a decently long way to help. They just need damage right now. Yeah, they have Elder Titan Natural Order to augment everyone's damage, but Dragon Knight is still very poor right now too. Also forced to go very defensive items in the Strength Treads, the Ogre Club, as well as the Casual Cloak.
LGD hooking up as 5. Down at bottom, check that. Yeah, we'll head elsewhere. The rest of them all together, those DDC. getting some warding done. Looks like they want to take a run at the tier 1. In the meantime, Vici has amassed in the enemy jungle, the dire side jungle, swarming.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Vici Gaming members. And it looks like, yeah, they're going to be more than willing to trade a tower for a tower. They popped
fortified.
their own glyph, trading tier 1 for tier 2. A possibility, as the tier 2's at full health, they do have glyph, but they just have so much push power, they should still have a chance to do this before the TP.
Hook shot on Yao inside the base.
Radiant's bottom tower is falling.
Yao stunned out. And ROTK right there to help out. Down goes the Nether Ward as well. And the tower still standing, but most likely not for long. Rabbit trying to bring down the Nether Ward and managing to do so.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
18.5 minutes in. And Vici
Dire's top tower
very
has
close
fallen.
to slamming the door shut on LGD. Buyback already on Yao. So costing them considerably as it stands. ROTK has hookshot back up in about 35 seconds. Bear going to be caught with a Dragon Tail. Crepify helping get him away a little bit more safely. But so far, Vici showing no signs they want to abandon this. They do have Necro Book ready to go. There's the mechanism already used. And LGD holding the line fairly well. However, this Bear from Sylar, he's going to have 2 minutes before he can resummon, but the Radiance Burn in and of itself doing considerable damage. Looks like, though, that's all they're going to get as they decide to go ahead and abandon things, head back out.
They still got a lot accomplished there. They forced a buyback out of Yao. They got half the damage on the T3, and they wasted a lot of LGD's time, too. So Vici still complete control of this game right now. Gold lead over 10,000 at this point, too. Vici could easily take a Roshan, give it to Sylar, and attempt to take a Rax.
12-4. Vici tripling up LGD here in this second game. And so far, LGD just has really seemed caught unawares. I mean, they went with the greedy build on Rabbit, getting out the early Midas, now tracking down a BKB following the Force Staff. And they just have really felt like they're in disarray. Sylar getting up a very fast Radiance, already has another 1,600 gold to boot to go with it. Medallion's already done on Fenrir, and yeah, they're moving towards the Roche Pit. With the minus armor they're going to have from Scream as well as from Medallion and so forth, this should be a very fast Roshan.
Yep, LGD cannot contest it at this point, too. Maybe when OD gets his BKB, they can start doing something, but it's still going to be a long shot for them. And yeah, they just were not prepared for the early push from Vici. They had the early mech on Pugna, they had the early Radiance on Lone Druid, and LGD just has no answer for it.
Down it goes. So Aegis picked up by Pugna. And Necro Book 2 already done. So the push should be even more potent. Taking a look at LGD and where they stand. Yao has had a bit of a rough game, sitting at 0-3-2. But really, things have kind of come apart for Zhao 8. Has a casual cloak and Ogre Club, and about 1,000 gold out from his BKB, so he'll at least be a little bit more survivable. But he's died so many times, already sitting at roughly 1 and 5, and has really just been taken out of effectiveness in this game, much like Super was in last game. We just have really not felt his impact at all.
Necro 2 already up on Pugna, and the sieging of the T3 begins now. Although it would be ideal for them to push top, since the T3 is already at half, but they're at such an item advantage right now that it's not that big of a deal.
And LGD already in position. The gold and 5-digit territory. There's a hook from ROTK, caught DDC. And the Courier hanging out a little bit. Earth Splitter's going to be there. But BKBs are there. They're able to mech through what little damage was done. And Zhao 8 really just contributing so little. His damage output is ridiculously low. Tier 3 drops more or less for free. And Pugna quite low, but has the Aegis, and Rabbit pops his BKB after being swatted by FY. FY able to force staff himself to safely, and Rabbit was rooted down. Let's see if they can man. Nope, unable to track him down. BKB will be coming off. Will be going on cooldown shortly, though.
Dire's middle barracks has
and in the meantime, looks like Vici quite happy to just take what they're given. Not going to hang around Instead, just taking the tier 3 and the melee racks and heading on back.
Super is ridiculously farmed at this point too. 112 CS on him, just 7 behind Sylar. He already has a nook of 3. And what does LGD have? They used a BKB. They weren't even able to get a kill on Rabbit. It was pretty much just used defensively. And like Rabbit just is not contributing much at all to. He is pretty farmed too, but he is even on CS with Super, but his net worth is still like 1,500 away, even with the minus.
Vici continuing to try to maintain map control. See, Xiao 8 has gone to the jungle to try and play catch up, and should have his BKB in short order, one would imagine. Meantime, though, they're going to get a free one on Rabbit. Rabbit way too far out and ends up paying the price for it. And they might just push down this lane. They've already got a creep wave. ROTK, Fenrir, and FY in position. Book 3 popped, and the creeps run up the hill. Xiao 8 trying to hold along with his teammates. In the meantime, at top, Sylar split pushing there. And spam coming out on both sides. Enough to melt the creep waves at the very least. And it looks like ROTK, yeah, he's going to have a hook available in about 15 seconds. And in the meantime, Sylar just continuing to shove this top lane in, and with mid shoving in as off of the absence of the racks, shouldn't be too big of a problem. We heard the Earth Splitter go off, but no commitment out of either side to trying to take a fight as of right now, and using the stomp as best he can. But Vici free to just rotate to top now and join up with Sylar.
Bear gets stunned out, but Xiao 8's already almost dead just from trying to kill Sylar's Bear.
Bear right on top of him. Rabbit not faring much better. And Sylar does have a resummon. And this is basically going to be very nearly a free tier 3. In the meantime, ROTK and FY continuing to keep mid shoved in up to the tier 4s. And this is going to be the second set of racks. They've already used their glyph. Vici has actually picked up a book of his own as well. That's going to be the second set of melee racks. Both gone. And there's the hook. ROTK manages to catch Rabbit. BKB's up on both sides, force staffing out of the cogs. However, DD not so fortunate. Trying to make it away, burning to death to the Radiance burn, as is the rest of LGD. Xiao 8 going to have his life drained away, but will make it back to the well. Enough check that. Super able to finish him off. DDC, same boat, and GG's going to be called.
Straight up domination from Vici right there, and that's just a super greedy draft from LGD. Vici just did pretty much the same thing as last game, except they had a Pugna instead of a Kuka. And just 5-man on very early, and just no anti-push from LGD, no solution to the 5-man. Darkseer is like decent at 5-man, Elder Titan is like mediocre at anti-push too, but they kind of just went half-assed with their strategy. Nothing like really shines in their lineup too. Their gank is very weak. They tried to smoke gank with CM and Darkseer very early, but just unable to make anything happen because of fantastic rotation from Vici Gaming early. LGD needs to go back to the drawing board and needs to draft according to what they're good at.
Sylar and Super both really leading the way for Vici Gaming that time around. Sylar 2-1-9, only 2 kills, but still had the Radiance up at a very good time. Led the way in GPM, highest on the board, 592 for him. Super 4-0-4. Early mechanism, very quick book 3 as well, just allowing Vici to pour the pressure on and never have to lock and reload. And a lot of that began, as you were talking about, with the amount of pressure they were able to apply to Xiao 8's Dragon Knight, who finished at 1-7-2. So really, I mean, and this is what we expect. I mean, we know that both of these teams know how to 5-man, know how to handle each other, but this is quintessential Vici Gaming. It's what gave them so much success and allowed them to roll to the grand finals here through our group stage, and it's what LGD had to worry about. I agree with you, though. Just such a greedy approach out of them. The Darkseer pick in particular, I mean, finished with a mechanism and 3 bracers, just really didn't feel hardly any influence at all out of that hero.
Yeah, it's just not that good as a smoke gank partner too. CM really needs something like an Alchemist to pair up with if they want to get a lot of kills in the early game, man. I mean, they even like messed up the Sentry Ward too, which didn't even block a spawn. So they got their levels that they needed, but just unable to translate into anything in the mid game, and Super was just left unchecked the whole entire game as Pugman too. He was super farmed. He had a very, very, very early mech arcane, and then a Necro 3 just sealed the deal at the end of the game. 25 minutes in, he had Necro 3, mech arcane, and he probably had it around 20 in.
Yeah, not even 25. 24-18 was the official game time. 17-4, the final kill score. We're going the distance in our first series. Winner of this advances to our grand finals. The loser will drop down to meet Fnatic in the lower bracket finals. I'm EC, that's Merlini. We'll be right back with the conclusion of this series here on the HyperX D2L. Stick with us.